Hi guys, welcome back to Swordwind. We are the Charlotte branch of the New York Historical Fencing Association, and in this video we are going to talk about this sword from SGT Blades. About a year ago, I asked Garth Thompson at SGT to produce a prototype fetter because there were none on the market that met everything that I wanted to have in a tool to recommend to my training students. This is the result. I've put this through 2 fairly hard sparring sessions, as well as solo drilling and in-class drilling. And I gotta say, I'm really happy with this. Garth is calling this his I-beam model. I am, so let's talk about what the features of this are. The first thing is that it's got a Swordwind that I assume you can hear in the camera, because I can hear it from behind me. That was really important to me. As you know, if you've watched any of the other videos on this channel, I think it's really important, especially for beginner students, that they get audible feedback about what their edge alignment looks like during the cut. Sound is the best way to do that, and a flat-bladed fetter, for instance, this is an Ensifer standard, and the blade is just a flat bar. Doesn't give that feedback to the fencer. There are ways around that, as we've talked about. You can fence in front of a wall, you can fence indoors, but not everybody has that option. This is something that you can hear from behind it, even if you're outdoors. So you can take this and practice with it basically as if it were a sharp. You can do it even in places where you're not allowed to carry a sharp, which is the situation I'm at when I'm practicing work, and get that feedback. The other thing that I think is important about it, of course, is that new students especially need that feedback, and they can't usually afford a separate sharp to do their solo practice with. So this combines both of those aspects in one tool. The reason it does that is because it's got this massive fuller running down the length of the blade. Get a little closer so you can see that. All the way down, the whole blade is basically one fuller until we get to the spatulated tip. Those of you that are familiar with Simon Klebowski's swords probably recognize this. The old Angus Trim I-beam trainers had this feature. The fuller is what creates the Swordwind, so I wanted something on the market that was affordable that had that. The other thing that the fuller lets you do is that the edges of this fetter are fairly massive. I've been hit by this pretty damn hard, even in the finger, and this edge spreads out the impact. It's a relatively heavy sword at 3 pounds, 7 ounces. I think the production model is going to be a little bit lighter than that, but still that's on the beefy side as fetters go, and it feels fine when you get hit, even in very sensitive areas, full force. The other thing I like about it, and this is a nice contrast to the Klebowski fetters, is that it is incredibly flexible. I can push into my own hand, bend it really far, and I feel basically no pain at all. I've stabbed people with this and it turned into a steel rainbow. I've received those thrusts myself. Perfectly comfortable. Way more comfortable, in fact, let alone the Klebowski's, way more comfortable than something kind of a more standard fetter like this. I think that would bother me if the blade was floppy in the cut or in the bind, but it is not. Cutting with this sword, as long as you get your edge alignment right, the blade stays perfectly stiff. One thing we've noticed in playing around with it here at Swordwind is if you get your cut wrong, let's see if I can do that on command. Then the blade does start to vibrate in your hand, and you get a little bit of extra feedback that, hey, something was off with that cut. Besides the fact that you're not going to be able to hear the Swordwind at the right pitch, you'll feel it in your hands a little bit, that the blade is vibrating in a way that it shouldn't. On top of that, the sword has held up very well to the abuse we've put it through. I have not cleaned this up at all after about a week of use, and as you can see, although the edge has certainly taken some damage, there's virtually no burrs. There's one right here, but otherwise I can run my finger along this. Edge and be totally fine. Similarly, there's no rattling in the hilt components yet. Nice and solid. We've got a peen construction here. From everything I've seen, Garth actually knows what he's doing with a peen. This is nice and solid. The handle is not, the handle wood is not rattling around. Total retail price for this, of course, I am not, this doesn't bind Garth in any way, but I paid $400 US for this. I think that's very reasonable, especially for a US, a North American based fetter. I got this very quickly once it was done because I didn't have to deal with overseas customs. A couple of things that I am not entirely happy with, but that I have already talked to Garth about fixing in the production model. One is that this leather, although very nice, is more slippery than I would like. Either a kind of more textured leather would be nice so that the handle doesn't want to kind of slip in your hands, or else leather over a cord wrap so that there's more texture to the leather because it's literally sitting on top of string. The other thing, and this is the main item that I want to fix, is the shape of this crossguard. As you can see, this is a really beefy crossguard. On the one hand, it's very solid. On the other hand, there's a lot more metal in here than I think there needs to be. Compare that to the shape of this Ensifer crossguard, and especially if you look at them head on, you'll see that the Ensifer is thin. The Ensifer is thin, but it is tall. So there's a lot of metal where you're going to meet a strike, but not a lot of kind of extra mass in this dimension. That I think needs to change. That'll take some weight off of the final sword. Not that 3 pounds 7 ounces is excessive, but I would prefer it to be a little bit lighter. It will also move the point of balance a little further up. That's something else that I don't like about most production fetters. When different schools have different philosophies about this, I want my students' fetters to feel as much like a sword as possible. And one of the ways that most production fetters fall down on that is that their points of balance are really close to the hilt. 8 centimeters, maybe as few as 5. Whereas to get kind of a more sword-like feel, you want about like 8 to 10, or maybe even up to 12. Right now, this point of balance is at 9.6 centimeters from the hand. You can certainly feel that in the dynamics of the swing. I would prefer it if it was up to 10. Taking a little bit of metal off of this crossguard and reshaping it like we just discussed ought to take care of that. One more point, I guess, about why I want that is because the point of this tool is to help students learn how to cut even when they are sparring, even when they're, even when they are drilling, to cut the way that you would cut with a sharp in your hand. And there are a lot of cuts, like a Swordwind, like a Krumpau, that don't really flow the way they should unless the balance point is far enough away from the cross. Not up here, obviously, going here, but you get what I'm saying. So that's what I've got to say about this SGT Blades I-beam trainer. I'm really happy with this product. I'm looking forward to seeing more of them in my club, especially with the redesigned crossguard. Garth doesn't have these on his website yet, but you can ask for them. I know that he's been advertising them on Facebook as well, and I think they're well worth your time. Thanks very much, and I'll see you next video.